Welcome to the Deep Dive. We're the show that really tries to cut through all the noise, the information overload.
Yeah, get right to the heart of things.
Exactly. Bring you those profound insights, maybe some surprising facts that are hiding in the source material you share with us.
Our goal is always to help you feel genuinely informed.
Without getting bogged down. We want you leaving feeling clearer, not more confused.
And today, well, we're diving into something really foundational. I mean, truly foundational.
Yeah, this isn't just tweaking a minor point of theology.
Not at all. We're looking at ideas that challenge some very deeply ingrained beliefs that have shaped religious thought for, well, centuries.
We're going to carefully unpack this whole idea that divinity might be made up of multiple persons or, separate entities.
That's the core of it. Our mission today, based on these sources, is to explore how the original scriptures, and specifically the ancient Hebrew language,
Which is key, isn't it? The original language.
absolutely crucial, how they attest that Yahweh Eloah, that's the name the sources consistently use for the divine,
Right.
is one singular,
Yeah.
just one entity, not multiple.
And we're hoping to bring some surprising facts to light, maybe some shifts in perspective that could offer you, the listener, a completely fresh way of understanding this, maybe even a more accurate way, according to these texts.
Yeah, and the core revelation here is, well, it's profound. It really centers on this idea. The original Redeemer, Yahweh himself,
Yahweh himself.
he did exactly what the scriptures always foretold he would do. He saved us, personally.
It wasn't delegated. That's the big takeaway from the sources, isn't it?
Exactly.
Yeah.
No sending someone else, no proxy, no intermediary to do the heavy lifting of redemption.
The sources are emphatic. It's Yahweh himself directly involved. He's the lion and the lamb,
The root and the offspring.
the aleph and the taw, beginning and end.
No middleman, no proxy, just Yahweh, the sole ultimate Redeemer.
So, yeah, prepare for maybe some aha moments today as we navigate this. It's a profound truth, and for many it might feel, well, revolutionary. Let's dive in.
Okay, so where do we start?
Let's start by tackling one of the biggest assumptions, right? Especially in traditional Christian and Jewish thought.
The figure of Melchizedek. Melchizedek, as most people know him.
Right. The sources we're looking at today, they come out swinging. They make a really strong claim right away.
They do. They state very clearly that Melchizedek is not just some human king from Salem.
Or an angel, or anything created, really.
Exactly. Not a created being at all. And this is where it gets, well, incredibly interesting.
Because they assert.
They assert that Melchizedek is Yahweh Almighty himself, manifested, appearing in different ways throughout history.
Wow. Okay, let's pause there. Because traditionally, Melchizedek is seen as what? A human priest king? Maybe Shem?
Right. Shem is a common Jewish interpretation. Or maybe just a righteous Canaanite king. Christians often see him as a type of Christ, or maybe even a pre-incarnate appearance of Christ.
But these sources say no to all of that. He's not a type, not a human, not an angel. He is Yahweh.
He is the singular, uncreated, divine being. That's the claim. It fundamentally redefines the whole picture.
And this understanding, it culminates, the sources say, in the incarnation of Yahshua Messiah.
Precisely. So it's not just reinterpreting one figure. It redraws the entire map of divine involvement.
It implies this direct, unbroken line of Yahweh's presence and action. No separate divine persons involved, just Yahweh manifesting.
It pushes back hard against any idea of multiple divine entities. It points to Yahweh's direct personal interaction culminating in Yahshua.
Okay, so let's dig into why they make this claim. What's the textual basis?
Well, the sources place huge emphasis on Melchizedek's eternal, uncreated nature. And the key scripture, the absolute anchor for this, is Hebrews chapter 7, verse 3.
Right, let's hear that again. It describes him how?
As without father, without mother, without genealogy, having neither beginning of days nor end of life.
Okay, without father, without mother, without genealogy.
But, resembling the Son of God, he remains a priest forever.
Now, the sources argue that description without father, without mother, without genealogy isn't just saying his records are lost, right?
Not at all. They see it as a precise legal and theological statement, a disqualifier for any created being.
Because anything created has a beginning, a source, a lineage.
Exactly. Every human has parents, a genealogy. Even angels in theology are created beings. They have an origin point. They don't have an end of life in the same way, perhaps, but they definitely have a beginning of days.
So the complete absence of all these markers, no father, no mother, no genealogy, no beginning, no end, points to something else entirely.
It points, they argue, undeniably, to an uncreated, eternal, self-existent nature, Only the divine fits that description.
So that rules out Shem, rules out any human, rules out any angel.
Completely, according to this interpretation. It's the textual proof, they claim, of Melchizedek being Yahweh.
And how does the Ancient of Days fit into this from Daniel?
Ah, yes, Daniel 7. That's another key connection the sources make. The Ancient of Days is this incredibly powerful term for Yahweh.
Describing his timelessness, his eternal existence.
Absolutely. Daniel sees this vision, the Ancient of Days, on a fiery throne, river of fire, countless attendants. It's a vision of ultimate, uncreated majesty.
Not a created being.
Clearly not. It's the Creator himself. The sources argue this vision is another witness to the same singular, eternal being who also appears as Malkitzedek. Same entity, different manifestations or descriptions.
Okay, this is huge. If Melchizedek is Yahweh, what does that mean for Yahshua? Especially since Hebrews calls Yahshua a priest forever according to the order of Melchizedek.
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? And it directly confronts traditional Trinitarian doctrine.
Which understands God as what? 3 co-equal, co-eternal persons?
Right. Father, Son, Holy Spirit, one God, 3 persons. That's the standard view. But our sources, based on this Melchizedek understanding, argue that's a fundamental misunderstanding of the original Hebrew scriptures.
So they reject Trinitarianism.
Explicitly and strongly. They assert Yahweh's absolute singularity. One being. One entity.
So in their view, Yahshua is who?
Yahshua is understood as the direct personal manifestation of the singular Yahweh himself, taking on human flesh.
Not a separate son person who existed alongside the father person before the incarnation?
Exactly. Not a second person of the Godhead becoming human, but the one and only Yahweh embodying himself in human form. Yahweh's own being taking on flesh.
That's a radical difference.
It fundamentally reshapes everything, especially redemption.
How does this affect familiar scriptures then? Like John 1.1, in the beginning was the Word.
Great question. The sources tackle that head on. The Greek is the logos, but the underlying Hebrew concept is dabar.
Dabar, okay.
They argue dabar is not an independent pre-existing divine son entity, a separate person from Yahweh.
So what is it then?
It's understood as Yahweh's own expression.
Yeah.
His divine utterance, his plan, his wisdom, his power taking form, becoming tangible. Think of it like Yahweh acting, Yahweh speaking reality into being.
So not a separate who, but Yahweh's what or how, his effective power.
Kind of, yeah. It's Yahweh's self-expression. So when John 1.14 says the Word became flesh, they interpret that as Yahweh's own divine essence, his dabar, becoming incarnate.
Yahweh himself manifesting in a human body.
Precisely. The singular Yahweh embodying himself for the purpose of redemption.
Okay, so let's connect that directly to redemption then. What are the implications?
The implications are massive. If Yahshua is Yahweh in the flesh, then the incarnation isn't Yahweh sending someone else.
It's Yahweh coming himself.
Exactly. Literally entering his own creation in human form. It's not delegation. It's the ultimate act of personal involvement.
The divine presence itself, the singular Yahweh, showing up to reconcile and redeem humanity directly.
Yes. It means Yahweh personally saves us. He doesn't use a proxy. He doesn't need an intermediary for the core act of salvation.
It's his singular act, flowing from his singular nature, Alpha and Omega, doing it himself.
And the glory belongs solely to him. No shared credit. Just Yahweh, the one and only Savior.
Wow. Okay. That sets the stage. Now, building on that, let's talk about the priesthood associated with Melchizedek.
Right, because if Melchizedek is Yahweh, then this priesthood isn't just some ancient curiosity.
The sources portray it as, what, the original.
The original and perpetual priesthood, established directly by Yahweh himself.
And this is important because it predates the Levitical priesthood, the one through Aaron and his sons.
Significantly.
Yeah.
It predates it, and ultimately, the sources argue, it supersedes it. It represents the true, eternal priestly order.
Governed by Yahweh himself.
Yes. The sources emphasize that only the high priest can appoint others. And in this eternal order, Yahweh, as Melchizedek, is the ultimate high priest.
So the authority is purely divine, flowing directly from him, no human mediation at the source.
Exactly. An unbroken line of divine authority, making it supreme over any temporary system like the Levitical one.
Now, this is where it gets maybe really unexpected for some listeners. This priesthood. How far back does it go?
All the way back. The sources trace it right back to Adam.
Adam. How so?
Adam is identified as the first ruler or king, given dominion, but the priestly function starts, symbolically at least, right after the fall.
In the garden.
Yes. Think about it. Who provided the coverings for Adam and Eve after they sinned?
Yahweh himself, he made garments of skin for them.
Exactly. That was the first sacrifice, the first act of atonement, of covering sin. And it was performed directly by Yahweh.
Initiating that priestly role of mediation and reconciliation himself.
Setting the precedent.
Yeah.
Yahweh is the ultimate high priest, providing for his creation.
And this line continues. It doesn't stop there.
The sources argue it's an unbroken righteous line. Noah, for instance.
The eighth from Adam, right?
Yes. Adam, Seth, Enosh, Kenan, Mahalalel, Jared, Methuselah, then Noah. And Peter calls Noah a proclaimer of righteousness.
Which the sources take as evidence of his role in this continuing priest-king lineage.
Correct. Appointed directly by Yahweh, showing this divine order focused on righteousness wasn't just invented at Mount Sinai, it's ancient.
Rooted in Yahweh's earliest dealings with humanity.
Demonstrating his consistent, direct involvement.
Okay, fast forward to Abraham. How does he fit in?
Abraham is pivotal. His induction into this priesthood is foundational. It happens in that famous encounter in Genesis 14.
With Melchizedek after the battle, bread and wine.
Yes. Melchizedek, king of Salem, priest of the Most High God, brings out bread and wine, blesses Abraham, and Abraham gives him a tenth of everything.
And the sources see this as more than just a historical meeting.
Oh, much more. They see it as a formal covenant initiation. Abraham is being brought into this ancient Melchizedek order.
Establishing that covenantal lineage for his descendants, linking them directly to Yahweh through this priesthood.
Setting the stage for everything that follows, a direct personal link.
Now, here's the contrast point. The Levitical priesthood comes much later.
Much later, 430 years after Abraham's covenant meal with Melchizedek.
And the sources frame the Levitical order differently, not as the original plan.
Right. They see it as a temporary conditional addition,
a
specific Torah or a set of instructions, Torah, maybe we should say.
Yeah. We'll get to that distinction later,
Added because of Israel's transgressions. Specifically, the golden calf incident seems to be the trigger point in that view.
So it was a response to sin, not the ultimate design.
Correct. Its purpose was to manage sin, provide temporary atonement, and importantly, point forward to the ultimate sacrifice. It wasn't meant to replace the eternal Melchizedek order.
And Hebrews 7 again, verses 11 and 12.
Yes, those verses are crucial here. They basically say, if perfection came through the Levitical priesthood, why would we need another priest according to the order of Melchizedek?
Implying the Levitical system was insufficient.
Insufficient for ultimate perfection, yes. And the passage continues. For when the priesthood is changed, there is necessarily a change in the law as well.
Now, how do the sources interpret that change in the law? Does it mean the whole law of Moses is gone?
No, and this is a vital nuance they stress. The change in the law refers specifically to laws governing the priesthood and the sacrificial system.
The parts directly tied to the temporary Levitical functions.
Exactly. Those specific instructions related to animal sacrifices and rituals that served as shadows pointing to Yahshua, those are fulfilled and superseded.
But not the entire Mosaic law, not the moral framework, the feasts, the Sabbath.
No. The overarching Torah, Yahweh's unified instruction for righteous living, remains eternally binding. It's a crucial distinction. Change the priesthood, change the priestly laws, not the whole covenant instruction.
Okay, so where does Yahshua fit into this picture of priesthoods?
His role is seen as the ultimate fulfillment and the reestablishment of the eternal Melchizedek priesthood.
Reestablishment,
Yeah.
Because the Levitical system had sort of overlaid it.
Yes, obscured it or served as a temporary measure. Yahshua, through his singular perfect blood sacrifice, restores the original direct order.
And the Last Supper, the bread and wine.
That directly parallels Abraham's meal with Melchizedek. It's not just symbolic remembrance. The sources see it as a profound reestablishment of that eternal priesthood, sealed now by Yahweh's own bloodshed in Yahshua.
The transition back to the original direct covenant. So let's bring this home for the listener. What does being part of this reestablished Melchizedek priesthood mean for you?
It means believers are incorporated directly into it. You become, as Peter says, part of a kingdom and a nation of kings and priests.
Direct access to Yahweh, like Adam or Abraham had.
Yes.
Yeah.
No longer needing the Levitical intermediaries in the same way. You are entitled to partake in the bread of life, that direct communion and covenant relationship with Yahweh.
And there's a responsibility that comes with that.
Absolutely. Just like Noah was a proclaimer of righteousness, believers are now tasked with proclaiming and living out this restored righteous Melchizedek order. It's a call to be active participants in his kingdom.
Not just passive recipients.
Right. Active priests, active kings under the ultimate high priest and king, Yahweh himself.
Okay, let's shift gears slightly. Another major point in these sources deals with the books or scrolls of Moses.
Yes, this is critical. They address what they see as a major misunderstanding. The idea that the Book of the Law, the Book of the Covenant, and the Book of Moses are somehow different documents.
People often talk about them separately, right? Debating which parts apply today.
Exactly. But the sources argue vehemently. These are not separate texts. They are different descriptions of one single, continuous, unified scroll written by Moses.
One scroll, not separate books.
Correct. This challenges any interpretation that tries to chop up the Mosaic tradition, saying this part is law, this part is covenant, this part is history, and then maybe discard some parts.
And they bring in archaeology here.
They do. Discoveries like the Dead Sea Scrolls, especially the Great Isaiah Scroll, show just how long ancient scrolls could be, continuous texts.
So the physical reality of ancient scrolls supports the idea of a single, unified document from Moses.
It makes it plausible, even likely. The idea of separate books, like we have today, is a much later concept. Thinking of it as one massive scroll changes how you approach its unity.
Okay, beyond archaeology, what about the language itself? How do the Hebrew terms support this unity?
This is where it gets really insightful. Let's look at 3 key Hebrew words.
Okay.
First, sefer, usually translated book.
Right, the Book of the Law.
But its core meaning is scroll. And that difference is huge. A book suggests sections, divisions. A scroll implies continuity, an unbroken whole.
So just translating sefer as book already pushes us towards thinking of it as potentially fragmented?
The sources argue yes. That subtle shift imposes our modern concept onto the ancient reality and opens the door to dividing what was meant to be unified.
Okay, what's the next word?
Torah, commonly translated law.
Which sounds very legalistic, maybe restrictive.
Exactly. But its deeper meaning is teaching, direction, instruction. It's the content of the scroll, Yahweh's unified guidance.
So not just rules, but the whole package. History, morals, rituals, prophecy.
All of it. It's Yahweh's holistic instruction for life within the covenant relationship. Not just a list of do's and don'ts separate from the story or the promises.
And the third word?
Berit, meaning covenant.
The agreement, the compact.
Right. And its root means to cut, referencing how covenants were often sealed, sometimes with blood. But the key point is, the covenant isn't a separate document from the Torah.
They're linked.
Intrinsically. The sources argue the teaching is the covenant agreement, and the covenant agreement is defined by the teaching. You can't separate Yahweh's instruction from his binding relationship with his people.
They are one and the same reality.
2 sides of the same coin. The Torah defines the terms and life within the Berit.
And is there scriptural evidence showing these terms used interchangeably for the same document?
Absolutely. The sources point specifically to 2 Chronicles, chapters 34 and 35. The story of King Josiah finding the scroll in the temple.
What happens there?
Throughout that narrative, the text refers to the discovered scroll as the Book of the Covenant, the Book of the Law, and the Law of Moses given through Moshe. It uses these terms fluidly, clearly referring to the same single scroll.
So the Bible itself demonstrates their unity.
Unequivocally, they argue, rejecting any modern attempt to separate them into different categories or levels of authority. It's one unified revelation.
Okay, now, this leads to a pretty sharp critique in the sources, doesn't it, about English translations?
Yes, it does. They don't hold back. They accuse English translations of imposing a false dichotomy, a separation between law and covenant that just isn't there in the Hebrew.
And they attribute this to English dogma.
That's the term they use. A combination of linguistic misunderstanding, not grasping the depth of Hebrew terms like Torah and Berit, and theological biases that developed later, particularly maybe anti-law sentiments in some streams of Christianity.
Leading to significant theological errors, they claim.
Profound errors. Fragmenting Yahweh's unified word, leading people to wrongly believe parts of it are obsolete or irrelevant.
And this is where that distinction between Torah singular and Torah plural becomes vital.
Absolutely critical.
Yeah.
It's a nuance completely lost in most English translations,
Right.
which just say law for both.
So remind us, Torah singular is?
The whole unified, overarching instruction and covenant from Yahweh. His complete eternal teaching, the entire scroll conceptually,
And Torah.
refers to specific individual laws, statutes, or sets of instructions within the larger Torah, like the specific laws for the Levitical sacrifices could be called Torah. or instructions about purity.
Okay, so this distinction helps clarify what changed with Yahshua.
Precisely. It wasn't the singular Torah, Yahweh's eternal instruction, that was abolished. It was specific Torah, particularly those related to the temporary Levitical priesthood and its sacrificial system, that were fulfilled and thus superseded by Yahshua's perfect sacrifice.
Because he was the reality those shadows pointed to.
Exactly. But the foundational Torah, the instruction for righteous living, the moral law, the feasts, the Sabbath that remains, this distinction, they argue, resolves the tension perfectly.
It reconciles passages that speak of change with those that speak of the law's permanence,
without abolishing Yahweh's core instructions.
Okay, so given this unified understanding of Torah and covenant, what does this demand from the believer? What does it mean for you, the listener?
It means the covenant Yahweh established is eternal, and it demands obedience, full obedience to the unified Torah.
Not picking and choosing parts.
No, it's a holistic relationship defined by his instruction. And transgression, breaking that instruction knowingly, has consequences. It leads to judgment.
Not just arbitrary punishment, but the natural result of stepping outside the covenant framework.
Yes, stepping outside the way of life and blessing he established.
And redemption, how does it enable this obedience?
Redemption, again, isn't external. It's Yahweh's own blood shed in Yahshua. That act doesn't just forgive past sin. It fundamentally provides the means for redemption, and crucially, it empowers believers to walk in obedience to the covenant.
It enables adherence.
Yes, through the gift of his Spirit and the restored relationship. It makes true Torah observance possible from the heart, not just external compliance. And it underscores again, Yahweh himself provides the way.
And this redemptive plan, it's consistent, not changing throughout history.
Absolutely consistent. From Abraham's call, through Exodus and Sinai, the prophets, right up to Yahshua, it's one continuous story.
Yahweh directly involved, guiding, sustaining, saving.
One singular Eloah, executing his one unfolding plan. No plan B.
Now, what about this Melchizedek oath? That sounds fascinating.
It is. It connects to Psalm 110, verse 4. Yahweh has sworn and will not change his mind. You are a priest forever, in the order of Melchizedek.
An oath Yahweh swore.
Yes, and the sources link this oath to the Hebrew concept of Shabbat.
Usually translated Sabbath or rest.
Right, but it also means to cease, to complete, to desist. So the Malkitzedek oath, in this view, symbolizes a complete commitment, a total cessation from rebellion, a full resting in Yahweh's will and truth.
A complete alignment with his divine order.
Exactly, a solemn vow of absolute fidelity.
And Yahshua fulfilled this.
Perfectly. His submission, even before Pilate, acknowledging his kingship but stating his kingdom isn't of this world, is seen as demonstrating this ultimate obedience.
He fully completed Yahweh's will, ceased from any self-will, even to death.
Embodying that Shabbat oath, total dedication.
Okay, and the blood of the covenant, Dom Barrett, how is that defined here?
Again, profoundly personal. It's not just animal blood. It's not the blood of a mere agent. It signifies the blood shed by Yahweh himself as the head of the household.
Like the patriarch making atonement for his family.
Precisely. Opening the door of redemption through his own sacrifice in the flesh of Yahshua. Sealing the eternal covenant with his own life. It emphasizes that intimacy, that directness.
Which makes disobedience, especially knowing disobedience, incredibly serious.
Extremely serious. The sources are very clear.
Yeah.
If you receive the truth, understand the covenant sealed by Yahweh's own blood, and then deliberately turn away and continue in sin.
It's not just a mistake.
It's a grave offense, a trampling underfoot of that sacrifice. The consequences are described as severe divine judgment, loss of favor. The stakes are incredibly high.
So practically, what's the call to the listener?
The call is to return to full Torah observance, fulfilling the mitzvot, the commandments, and the Torah, the specific teachings, as enabled by Yahweh's Spirit through the Malkitzedek priesthood.
Living it out in every area: conduct, dress, speech.
A holistic righteousness, not as a burden for salvation, but as the joyful response to salvation, living within the covenant framework Yahweh designed for blessing.
And this prepares believers for
the return of the King. This adherence is described as making them presentable, a people without spot or blemish, fit for his direct physical presence when he returns.
Ready to meet Yahweh face to face.
Exactly. Prepared for that ultimate intimacy.
And this ties into the future hope. The sources reject the idea that we're already in the millennium.
Explicitly. They argue many prophecies are yet to be fulfilled literally.
Like the destruction of enemies, the rebuilding of the temple.
Yahweh's physical reign from Jerusalem. These are future events.
So they anticipate a literal physical return of Yahweh in the flesh to establish his kingdom on earth.
Yes, not just a spiritual reign for the church now, but a future tangible kingdom where his singular rule is fully manifest. It's a call to be ready for that.
Okay, this leads us to perhaps the most controversial part, the critique of mainstream theology.
Yes, the sources are very direct here. They critique Trinitarianism and common views on the law, attributing them to what they call a doctrinal meltdown.
A specific historical point where things went wrong.
They pinpoint the period when Hebrew texts were being translated and interpreted by Greek and Latin scholars.
The early church fathers, that era.
Generally, yes. They argue that process, perhaps unintentionally, introduced false concepts rooted in Greek philosophical ideas rather than pure Hebrew thought.
And this, they claim, effectively created another deity alongside Yahweh by dividing his singular nature.
That's their provocative claim. That the Trinity doctrine, for instance, arose from misinterpreting the Hebrew revelation through a Hellenistic lens, thus compromising Yahweh's absolute oneness.
That's a very strong charge.
It is, and it's central to their entire argument about recovering the original truth.
So how do they propose we avoid these errors? How do we get back to the pure source?
The answer is unequivocal: ancient Hebrew.
The original language is the key.
It's positioned as the final authority. They argue it holds a clarity, a nuance, a depth of revelation that simply gets lost or even distorted in translation.
No matter how good the translation.
No matter how scholarly. The original language is presented as the only way to access the pure, unadulterated truth directly from Yahweh.
And the warning for teachers or scholars who don't have Hebrew fluency.
It's stark. They risk, even inadvertently, corrupting Yahweh's people by promoting teachings based on those translation errors.
Like separating law and covenant or saying parts of the Torah are gone.
Exactly. Because they're working with a potentially flawed copy, not the original blueprint. Access to Hebrew isn't just academic. It's seen as doctrinally essential, foundational for spiritual health.
And the consequences of these false teachings.
The sources warn they can deceive believers, lead them astray, and potentially, very seriously, exclude them from the first resurrection.
So the stakes are ultimate.
Incredibly high, according to this perspective, making the pursuit of accurate, Hebrew-rooted understanding absolutely paramount.
So for the listener, the call is
to be an active witness, a witness to Yahweh's singular identity, his direct redemption plan, to maintain unwavering fidelity to the whole unbroken truth, Torah, prophets, New Testament, seen as one consistent story of Yahweh's direct action.
a unified narrative centered on the singular Yahweh.
With no intermediaries muddying the waters of his direct salvation. It's a call to personal responsibility for understanding and living that pure truth.
Wow, we have certainly covered a lot of ground today. A really deep dive into some foundational and maybe challenging ideas.
Definitely challenging to many traditional frameworks.
Let's try to quickly recap the core insights we've pulled from these sources.
Okay. First, the absolute singularity of Yahweh. He eternally exists as Melchizedek, one divine being, period.
Second, Yahweh himself, not a proxy, manifested in the flesh as Yahshua Messiah to directly redeem us, his personal action.
Third, the Melchizedek priesthood is eternal. It supersedes the Levitical, and it continues today directly from Yahweh, involving all believers.
Fourth, the Torah, the covenant, the law of Moses, it's all one unified, unbroken scroll. One continuous instruction, not separate parts to be divided or discarded.
Fifth, redemption comes through Yahweh's own blood covenant, shed in Yahshua, and this redemption both requires and empowers our full obedience to his unified Torah.
And finally, genuine salvation and being part of that future kingdom, it's presented as depending on embracing this whole framework.
And critically, that studying the original Hebrew is essential to grasp and maintain this doctrinal purity, resisting errors from flawed translations or later traditions.
Yeah, this whole framework, as presented by the sources, is seen as absolutely indispensable for true salvation and restoring that original covenant relationship with Yahweh.
It's a complete integrated picture.
So, considering everything we've unpacked, Yahweh's singular identity, his personal act of redemption, the unified covenant in Hebrew, here's something to think about. What fresh questions does this raise for you about maybe the limitations of translation or the sheer power embedded in the original language of Scripture?
And how might our own modern ways of thinking, our cultural or linguistic assumptions, perhaps inadvertently cloud these truths that the sources claim are crystal clear in the Hebrew? What might it take to see past those clouds?
Lots to ponder there.
Definitely. Until next time, keep digging deeper, keep asking questions, keep seeking that truth.
It's been fascinating exploring these depths with you today.